change the world around us today? Professor Gray?
As you know, last week we made yet another marvelous discovery on our show with the invention of the time machine. Professor Scott?
Well, we're going to use the time machine to go back into the Renaissance era so that we may observe firsthand what actually happened back then. Professor Bob?
During our totally radical voyage that we really had a quite excellent time. And we taped all of this so that we could show it to you in a couple of minutes. Professor Brian?
Thank you. So let's roll the tape.
We started off the first thing after breakfast, each of us going into our separate areas and time periods.
Area in the Renaissance was medicine. First we visited Andreas Vesalius while teaching at the Padua University, where he practiced anatomy. Andreas was a great anatomist who wrote the book on the fabric of the human body, or as he put it, De Humani Corporis Fabrica. This book was based on the discoveries he made through observations and dissections. This book tore apart old axioms on anatomy and became a guide for further discoveries. His successor and apprentice, shown here and entranced in study, was Gabriel Fallopius, who was in turn succeeded by Fabricus ab Aquapendente, who published De Varium Arteriolis and suggested for the first time the circulation of blood in the body. It was the home of the famed Leonardo da Vinci. Besides being a great artist and inventor, Leonardo was also the first modern anatomist. Here we see Leonardo in about 1502, engrossed in one of his many dissections, this one being of the liver. From these dissections, as well as many close observations of the human body, Leonardo made some of the first accurate diagrams and the best comprehension of the human body at that time. Leonardo's works also included the discoveries of the maxillary sinus, the moderator band of the heart, and the ventricle of the brain. Although these works were pure genius, they weren't published until years after his death. Our last stop was in France, on the battlefield, where Andros Perret, a veteran war doctor of 30 years, was making medical history. Before his discovery, boiling oil was used for cauteries to treat battle wounds. On this day, however, Andros's supply was lost, and Andros had to find another way to treat wounds. This is the way he discovered the less painful and more humane bandage, or dressing, as we now call it today.
Was also an important field in the Renaissance time. In the early 1600s, Angelo Sala of Italy was one of the first chemists to speculate about atoms and their significance in chemical change. He considered fermentation a process of regrouping of elementary particles to form new substances, some very new substances. In Belgium, Johann Baptista van Helmont was making greater discoveries in chemistry. He rejected 4 ancient elements and 3 Paracelsian principles, and instead he maintained that air and water were the only primitive elements. His most significant work was done with chemically produced gases, which distinguished from ordinary air. He recognized the identity of the gases produced during the burning of combustible substances, like charcoal or alcohol. He called it gas sylvester, as we know it now as carbon dioxide. Probably the greatest chemist of the Renaissance time, Swiss chemist Theophrastus Bombastus von Hohenheim, better known as Paracelsus, made many contributions to chemistry. Besides molding the chemist's language, introducing words such as alcohol, gas, and the word chemist, he founded the science of itrochemistry, the science of healing. Paracelsus believed in the four elements of Aristotle and the transmutation of the metals, but he did not consider either of these notions important. He was more interested in the sulfur-mercury theory and added salt as a third element. This was his tria prima theory of matter. He also believed the human body to be composed of three elements, disease to be caused by the shifting of their proportions. Curing the disease then consisted of bringing these elements back into balance. Some people took his advice, but more disregarded it.